One of our advisors had 3 intro calls the other day, and they were with type A personalities, and they kind of took control of the meeting, and they wanted to follow their agenda because they had all these questions that they wanted to ask. So I don't know if that's ever happened to you before, where somebody has these questions and they just take control. But this had never happened with this advisor before, so he wasn't sure what to do. And we ended up talking about it and came up with a plan for how to handle this. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this video up and keep it public, just because we talk about some prospect questions and things, actual scenarios that happened. So if you do want access to it, then look for the advisor membership, where I upload all the videos that are not public, that are private for advisors, and I'll keep them all in that library there. So here's how the meeting went. They asked, the advisor asked a question, so what's on your mind? And then this prospect said, well, my wife and I, we're getting close to retirement, and we're wondering, what services do you offer? And also, what are your fees? And then also, I guess number one, what's your investment philosophy? And then this advisor answered the question about investment philosophy. And then the client or the prospect asked the next question right after that, and that's kind of how it went. And they didn't build rapport. It wasn't a great call, because there was no sort of special questions that we're supposed to ask to build that rapport. It was more transactional. Now, we had another person who called where I got to be a part of the call, and it went a little bit differently. So we asked the normal what's on your mind question at the beginning, and then this person said, well, we're close to retirement and we're wondering if tax planning makes sense, and I guess number one, what are your fees? And then the thing that we talked about with that advisor, we just have to remember ACA, which is we acknowledge what they said, we compliment them, and then we ask. So they said, what are your fees? And instead of answering the question, I said, with a tone of excitement, I said, hey, that's a great question. And you know what? That's pretty exciting about what you said about retirement. What are you hoping that you can do in retirement that you can't do now? And he thought for a minute, and he didn't go back to his original question. He brought up some of the hobbies that he likes to do. He brought up the stress of the job that he has and what the job, how it creates stress. And then he brought up a recent health scare. Now, none of these things we would have figured out or talked about if we just went ahead and answered the questions that he had. And by the way, I will answer those questions, but I wanted to build rapport first. So after that, then I said in a serious tone, I said, hey, thanks for sharing that about the stress and that health scare that you went through. Did that change your thinking about just work in general and how you're using your time? And then he talked a little bit about that, how it did. He mentioned his new granddaughter that was born and how he wants to spend more time with her. He wants to spend more time doing the things that he wants to do rather than what work wants him to do. So that was a big revelation, at least him sharing that was. And then rather than answer the questions he had, again, I said, hey, you mentioned your wife. Tell me more about your family. And then he talked a little bit more about the granddaughter, granddaughter's parents, his kids, and just the joy that he's got from them. And it was a great start to the meeting, and it would have been different if we just answered those questions the way that he wanted to do it. So once you talk about some of these things with someone and you build that rapport, then you could get into the Q&A part and give all those answers that they're looking for. It's just go deeper with people. Don't go into the financials too soon. Don't go into the Q&A too soon. Ask those questions. Be curious, genuinely curious, because that shows that you care, and it shows, it'll allow them to open up even more when you do get into the financial things. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.